Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Today we're going to be talking about TRT. Do I need bioidentical testosterone? We'll dive into that topic here today. I get this question all the time from patients. Before we do, please smash the like button and love to see your comments down below. So regarding testosterone, testosterone is commonly given. I see it a lot in the conventional medical community today. Any guy that's aging, the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to get their testosterone looked at, and if it's lower, they're going to typically be recommended testosterone. Usually either an anthemate or a cypionate. Those are the two more common testosterones that are given. They typically give it in an injection format, a lot of times intramuscular. You can also do sub-Q as well. It takes a little bit longer to push it out, but the needle's smaller and easier to do. And they typically dose it usually once a week, anywhere between 100 to 150 milligrams per week. So first off, I think it's being overprescribed. The first thing is most conventional medical doctors are not talking about the underlying reasons why someone's testosterone is low, number one. And number two, once you go on testosterone, it's going to impact your upstream FSH and LH signaling from the brain. That's what causes the TRT to shrink your testicles, is you have the upstream LH and FSH starts to drop. That stimulates the Sertoli cells of the testicles to produce semen, and that can cause testicular atrophy, and that can also decrease sperm count. So first thing is, if you're a young guy, 20s or 30s, and you want to reproduce, you want to have kids at some point, you really want to stay away from bioidentical T. If you're an older person or you've already had your kids and you're like, I'm done, it's all good, you still want to get to the underlying cause. Is low testosterone the reason why I feel the way I feel? And will it fix it? And also, are we even dosing it the right way? Are there other factors I should look at? So I'm going to go into that today. All right, so first off, you're 20, you're 30, even in your 40s, I'd say testosterone should be given when you're older and when you've crossed many other issues off your list. The first thing is your sleep should be dialed in, 7 to 8 hours, get to bed before midnight. That's the first thing. Number two, you should do some kind of resistance training or interval training to stimulate natural hormone synthesis via lifting weights, or some kind of an interval burst training, Tabata, sprint, walk. That can stimulate growth hormone, which then increases testosterone potency and secretion. That's next. Make sure your diet's dialed in. Remember, your testosterone, it's a cholesterol-based hormone. It's a steroid-based hormone, so it has a cholesterol backbone. So make sure you're eating high-quality grass-fed meat, steak, healthy fat-soluble vitamins, lots of good healthy veggies. Adjust your carbohydrate. Most men, their testosterone is low because they're having too much processed carbs, too much sugar, too much inflammatory food that increases insulin. When insulin is high, there's an enzyme called aromatase. That enzyme causes testosterone to go to estrogen. It's a problem. So lots of guys having their testosterone lowered because they're just doing too much carbohydrate. Now, again, I'm not talking like fruit or starch. It's typically going to be more processed gluten, grains, more sugar, anything that has high fructose corn syrup in it. Usually natural fruits. It's not going to do it in a juice form. It can, because you have a lot more sugar. It's a lot more concentrated. You have no fiber. But if we're talking like berries or a little sweet potato, you're probably okay, right? But if you're coming into this 50 pounds, 100 pounds overweight, you probably want to be a lot more lower carb. You probably want to just focus on meat and veggies and really good fats, really good healthy fats, and be careful of the seed and nut-based oils. So out of the gate, we want to be really focused on the nutrients as well. So carbohydrate down for the insulin, and really have the good building blocks for our hormones, cholesterol-based nutrients, grass-fed meat, high-quality eggs. If you can tolerate grass-fed butter or ghee, these are all awesome building blocks. I already mentioned lifestyle stress, so make sure your sleep's dialed in, some kind of movement, 10,000 steps a day. I'm a big fan of a Tabata. Like, I do a 30-second on, 30-second off sprints. I'll do that 8 reps, typically. Try to do it once a day, right? That's going to give you a big growth hormone bump that supposedly lasts anywhere between 1 to 2 days. And growth hormone helps the potentiation of all other hormones. So I like it. It really helps. So we have other modalities. Toxins in the environment. So we have toxins, plastics, pesticides, molds. All these things are estrogenic. So it's going to impact your LH signaling from your pituitary. It's going to decrease it, so you'll have less stimulation from your testicles to make testosterone. So make sure you're not drinking out of or storing your water or food in plastics. Make sure you have a good RO filter so you're filtering out microplastics and pesticides. Go organic, really important. Make sure you're not on anything that could be, I'm just trying to think here. So your pesticides, your water, organic food. Make sure you're not storing your food in plastic. If you're drinking out of a plastic bottle, like here's your RO filter, you fill it up and you add some minerals and you drink, it's not really a big deal. It's more the storage, or it's more UV light. If you're going outside your house, definitely have like a clean canteen or a Yeti. That's going to be more stainless steel. That's a good way to prevent the UV and that leaching from happening. And then molds can obviously be a big deal too, because molds are estrogenic. And I would say next big thing is we can use supplements. So we can add things in like zinc. We can add in organs. Organs can be very helpful, especially orchic glandular tissue or grass-fed beef liver. We can get a lot of fat-soluble nutrients from those things that can supercharge our hormonal production. We can also use herbs that can stimulate hormone production as well. So whether it's ashwagandha that's shown to increase T by 15%, you could also do things like DHT blocking herbs, natural ones like saw palmetto, reishi mushroom, pumpkin seed oil extract, stinging nettle. These are shown to block T from going to DHT. DHT helps drive hair loss. And so one, you have a hair loss benefit, but it's also shown to increase testosterone 15-20%. The reason why people have DHT problems, one, there's a genetic component, but if you block DHT, if you're aromatizing and you have a lot more of that aromatase enzyme because you're inflamed, crappy diet, lots of processed carbs, that can cause that increase in T to go where now? It can go to estrogen, and that's a big thing. So first off, we can add saw palmetto in, we can add pumpkin seed oil, and we can really make sure we're eating things like oysters or just really good, healthy grass-fed meat that are going to be higher in zinc, right? Higher in copper. Zinc and copper tend to be high in equally the most excellent, more paleo foods. Your beef, your chicken, steaks, oysters, pumpkin seeds, clams, those kind of things are going to be really high in zinc and copper equally. So really important building blocks. And then other herbs we can do. Tonkat Ali is a very good herb. Tribulus is a very good herb. Horny goatweed. So you'll see different products that have a blend of these compounds together. So I recommend out of the gate, you have to look at the underlying diet and lifestyle issues. Also, got to look at your adrenals. If your cortisol is out of whack, your stress levels can be causing a mobilization of glucose equal to a candy bar, right? There could be a lot of glucose going in just because you're stressed. Like if you're stressed, you can get a blood sugar meter and you may see a bump in glucose that may be equal to you literally having a soda right then and there. You're not having the soda, but the stress is causing that same kind of blood glucose response. And that's how stress can mess someone's hormones up. So when you're stressed, going for a little walk can be helpful because you can burn that sugar off, which can be helpful. So getting a blood sugar meter can be really good to make sure your carbs are in check. My recommendation is a Keto Mojo, justinhealth.com/keto, KETOMOJO. You'll see it down below, justinhealth.com/keto mojo. This is a good meter, connects to your Bluetooth on your phone, so you can graph it out. Fasting below 100, 1 hour below 120, hour 2 back below 100, definitely below 100, hour 3. That's a good reading out of the gate. So the first thing is, now coming full circle, most doctors, when they give testosterone, they do it wrong. They give these big boluses, and it has nothing to do with mimicking natural production. So let's say you're doing all that. All right, and you're like, you still need testosterone. Well, first off, 80 or 90% won't need it if you do that, okay? You're gonna feel better. And even guys that still may be lower, most of their problems are better, meaning ED, premature ejaculation, lower libido, lower muscle mass, lower fatigue. Again, testosterone has receptor sites in the frontal cortex that improve motivation and cognitive thinking. So T can also help with thinking and really thinking through problems and predicting outcomes. So testosterone is really important for not just the physical, but also the cognitive too. I see so many guys that we bump all that up, right? And we can also decrease SHGB as well with like things like boron, which can help decrease SHGB, which binds up our free testosterone. So my recommendation is we want to be in the top half, the top 25% of the range for free and total T. When we test those, we always want to look at SHGB as well, and we always want to look at insulin, because if you're high insulin, the chances that you're aromatizing and giving more T will just go to E is really high. So that's number one. Number two, we don't want to do it once a week. We want to do it every day to every other day. Your body naturally makes about 6 to 10 milligrams of testosterone a day. A woman's body, about 1, all right? And so big differences there. And so if you give testosterone, ideally you don't want to give more than what you naturally make anyway. So you may want to come in at 3 to 5 milligrams. There are some products where you can microdose 1 milligram at a time via a sinus spray, and you can do it multiple times throughout the day. What's the benefit of that? Microdosing it does not decrease FSH signaling from the brain. So you're not going to shrink your testicles. You have less chance of decreasing fertility or lowering your sperm count. So these are all better things because you're naturally mimicking what would naturally happen. So whether it's a sublingual troche, or if you can do it in a compounded liposomal dropper, or you do the Natesto sinus spray, or even if you do a cream, you want to microdose that in that single milligram amount daily. Or if you want to inject, usually every day may be too much at that level. You may want to go every other day, but you may want to do 5 to 10 milligrams. But then get tested in the middle of the week, when you're halfway through. You don't want to do it in the beginning after you inject because you'll be way higher. You don't want to do it at the end either. So you want to do somewhat in the middle and then see where your T looks at. And you want to be in the top half, the top 25% of the range. And you also want to do estradiol with it because too many doctors, they end up giving too much estrogen because they're doing it once a week. So they give too much estrogen. And then what happens is their estradiol starts going up. So they start turning more into women. And that's a problem. And so a lot of times these doctors will actually compound a Arimidex or an estrogen blocking drug in the T, in my opinion, because they're lazy, because they don't want to fine tune that dosage. And so then you're blocking the estrogen, but estrogen is really cardioprotective. So we don't want to knock it down to nothing. We'd rather find that right dose that fits within a normal variation of what's produced daily, adjust that dose and do it every day or every other day. Much better if you're going to do it, because then you can keep your natural variation. You're not going to overdo it and create more estrogen. And you can also add in some DIM or some natural estrogen metabolizers. I don't recommend Arimidex or drugs because those things can knock down estrogen so low where now you lose the cardioprotective benefits of estrogen. The reason why you see most bodybuilders eventually have heart issues is because they're taking a lot of estrogen blockers so they can take a ton of T. But there's a trade-off with that where it can negatively impact your heart. So estrogen is cardioprotective. So we don't want it to knock it down to nothing. We want a natural variation of it that's normal. We just want to be able to clear it better with maybe some DIM or calcium deglucarate or NAC or glutathione, be able to clear it naturally. We don't want to block the production. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And again, the biggest natural way to do that, if you're going to give T, is don't overdose it. Mimic natural production as much as possible. Understand the range. And when you see doctors giving 100, 150 milligrams a week, what the heck is the point of that when your body is probably only making 6 a day? So 7 times 6 is 42. So why am I giving 2 to 3 times what I'd normally make in a week? Help me make sense of that, right? And that's where we kind of cross into doctors are starting to use testosterone like a drug and not like a natural hormonal support. And I say hormonal support and hormonal replacement. Those are 2 different things. So my philosophy is hormonal support, where you're just trying to fill in what's missing. And then hormonal replacement is let's just literally replace everything and just shut your organ down, right? So those are 2 different methodologies. My first thing is get to the root cause because most won't even need that. And if you need it, hopefully you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and up, and that's when you use it. And that may make sense, but maxed out sleep, diet, lifestyle. I have patients in their 60s that have great testosterone that are in the top 25% of the reference range for 60s that outproduce my patients in their 20s and 30s. I see it every day, so I know it's possible, right? So you want to look at things, get to the root issue. 80, 90% of the time, you will not need that if you do the right thing. Now, there may be some people that have some primary pituitary problems. Maybe their FSH and LH is already really high. It's screaming downstream. There may be some ways that you can jumpstart it with HCG. It's possible. That's human chorionic gonadotropin that stimulates LH to help with the natural production. But again, you'd want to see a more hormone specialist for that. But my kind of goal is to get you to think of the root cause. How did this happen? What are the natural things we can do to get these things better? And you need to look at your adrenals as well. You need to look at your diet. Your gut can play a big role because if you're not absorbing the nutrients to make the hormones, that's an issue. And then make sure your sleep is dialed in. Make sure toxins coming in from the environment are mitigated, right? Organic food, the carbohydrates, mold, plastics, pesticides. Make sure you have your sleep dialed in. And then I talked about some of your nutrients, whether it's organs or different herbs. And again, it can get a little bit confusing. That's why you want to reach out to a doctor like myself that has experience with this. So if you want to reach out, there'll be a link down below where you can reach out and schedule. I see patients worldwide. So if you need that on the telemedicine side, that's an option for you. We'll look at the adrenals, maybe even the thyroid. Maybe we'll look at insulin and blood sugar, and we'll look at T. And then if you have to go do T, let's say that is a next logical step. Do it the right way. Mimic as much of the natural variation in how your body produces it as possible, and don't overdo it and create more aromatization and more estrogen problems because of it. So I hope that makes sense. It's a little bit more complicated video, but you guys are smart. I know you guys get it. Links down below for anything I mentioned, and then regarding any questions, love to see it, love to help you guys out. All right. Hope that makes sense. Any questions, let me know. Take care, y'all.